Open the podcast bay door as hell.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 75 of Welcome to Geektown. I'm your host, Kurt Onstead. I've been a proud geek all my life, being into role-playing games, board games, sci-fi, and especially superheroes and comics. And I want to help others join me in those pursuits, but I've found that sometimes people can get overwhelmed or feel left out because they don't already have what some consider the requisite knowledge to be considered a fan. And that's where Welcome to Geektown comes in. Here, you can ask your questions without feeling like a gatekeeper is calling you out for not yet being fully versed in every aspect of your new interest. Happy New Year to all my listeners out there. I hope one of your resolutions will be to finally send in those questions you've always wanted me to answer on the show, or even just comments on the show in general, because I always love to get feedback. Just send those questions to welcome2geektown@gmail.com, or go to the website welcome2, the number 2 in that case, geektown.com, and click the Submit a Question link if you prefer to remain anonymous. Now, on to this week's topic. At Disney's somewhat recent investor event, many new Marvel shows and movies were announced, or more details were given on them. We've already talked about the comic versions of some of these, like She-Hulk, the Fantastic Four, and both Falcon and Winter Soldier, in various episodes. But there are a few other properties we haven't discussed yet, and so I thought it would be a good idea to introduce my listeners to some of the lesser-known characters that will be coming to the big and small screens in the upcoming year. Eventually, I'll probably get to all of them, including Shang-Chi, the Eternals, and Moon Knight, but I specifically wanted to talk about one of my favorites of this grouping, and that's Ms. Marvel. Unlike the other characters that are set to be portrayed in the upcoming shows and movies, Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel's secret identity, is less than a decade old. So, if you haven't visited a comic book store in a while, it would be understandable for you to not be familiar with her. But that's what Welcome to Geektown is here for, so let's dive into the young heroine's history and see what makes her unique and yet so familiar as well. The phrase, "success has many fathers," is accurate here, as no less than 5 people are credited with the co-creation of Kamala. The original concept came up from a discussion between Marvel editors Stephen Wacker and Sana Amanat. Like Kamala, Sana grew up as a Muslim American, and Stephen rightly felt that her stories could resonate with Marvel readers. The two decided to bring in writer G. Willow Wilson to write Ms. Marvel's solo book. Artist Jamie McKelvey designed Ms. Marvel's costume, he's also the cover artist for much of her early run, which obviously draws on the outfit worn by the original Ms. Marvel, now Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, but also combines a traditional trouser-slash-dress combination of South Asia known as the shalwar kameez. Finally, Adrian Alfonso drew the first 25 issues of Ms. Marvel's title, split across 2 volumes due to the Secret Wars soft reboot, helping define the look for Kamala and her supporting cast. Although her first appearance in Captain Marvel issue number 14 was written by Kelly Sue DeConnick and drawn by Scott Hepburn, they're not given any creation credit, as Kamala only makes a brief pre-Powers cameo and was already fully formed in concept by the time this saw print. So, let's get into the actual story of Ms. Marvel herself. Kamala Khan is a teenage girl growing up in Jersey City, a real town in New Jersey just across the bay from New York City. She's the American-born child of Pakistani immigrants Yusuf and Muniba, and, as mentioned earlier, is a Muslim American, though not as steadfast in her faith or conservative in her beliefs as her older brother Amir. Kamala was living a fairly normal life until the Terrigen Mists arrived. I've mentioned Terrigen in past episodes, but since this is the source of Kamala's origin, let's go over it again. A brief but relevant tangent. Kamala was created during the time after the Marvel Cinematic Universe had begun in full, but before Disney had bought out Fox, and so Marvel was avoiding creating new mutant characters, as Fox would automatically receive the film and TV rights to any mutant published, even if they weren't part of the X-Men line. The Terrigen Mists are how the Inhumans get their powers. Due to the genetic tinkering done eons ago by the Kree, when exposed to these otherworldly vapors, usually as a child, Inhumans get various powers and often change in appearance as well. During the Infinity Story, in which Thanos invaded Earth looking for his Inhuman son, the king of the Inhumans, Black Bolt, released a Terrigen bomb, which resulted in a cloud roaming the Earth, exposing people randomly to the mists. Any people that were exposed and happened to have the right bit of Inhuman DNA due to having an ancestor from that race underwent a metamorphosis, literally cocooning themselves and then coming out with new powers. Kamala was on her way home from a party that she had snuck out to attend when the mists rolled in. Unlike many of the new humans, as these newly discovered Inhuman progeny were named, Kamala was cocooned very briefly, and upon escaping the cocoon, found herself changed to look exactly like a younger version of her favorite superhero, Ms. Marvel. Blonde hair, white skin, and all. When she first got her powers, she was stuck like that, and made her first public appearance in that form as she rescued Zoe, a girl who had been making fun of and bullying her at the party she had gone to. She was able to return to looking like herself before sneaking home, where she was promptly grounded as her best friend Bruno had ratted her out. But at this point, Kamala had realized that helping people was something she liked doing, and with the help of Bruno, created a stretchable costume. As noted before, inspired by her personal favorite heroine, but with her own style added. She also wears a domino mask to hide her identity, as her body and face now resemble her natural form, rather than looking like the original Ms. Marvel. Kamala's full powers are shape-shifting, which she often uses to grow herself or her fists with a cry of "Embiggen!" as she fights her foes. In addition to being able to change size, her malleable body also gives her a healing factor, which allows her to recover quickly from wounds, although she's learned that A, she can't be actively using her other powers much while healing, and B, use of her healing powers has made it so she can't change her basic appearance anymore, except in very rare instances. In other words, no more looking like Carol Danvers for the most part. In her solo title, especially in the beginning, her status as a fledgling superhero is played up as she fights against mostly unknown villains in her local town of Jersey City. She also spends some time diving into her Inhuman background. Medusa, the queen of the Inhumans, learns of Kamala's existence from Wolverine, who teamed up with Ms. Marvel in issues 6 and 7 of her series. Medusa decides to keep an eye on Kamala by sending her Lockjaw, the Inhuman's pet dog, who also has the ability to teleport. Somehow, Kamala was able to convince her parents to let her keep Lockjaw as a pet, and the giant bulldog-like pooch accompanied her on a few missions, allowing her to reach places she never would have been able to. Kamala also has an open invitation to visit New Attilan, the inhuman floating city, anytime she likes, to train and otherwise learn about her otherworldly heritage. At the end of the first volume of her comic, she finally got to meet her namesake and idol, Captain Marvel, in a story that led up to the Secret Wars soft reboot of the Marvel Universe. Since then, Carol and Kamala have teamed up a few times, and Captain Marvel acts as a sort of mentor to the young Ms. Marvel. Although her solo book focuses on her adventures in Jersey City for the most part, Kamala has become an important part of the larger Marvel universe, especially post-Secret Wars. First, she joined the all-new, all-different Avengers. That was the name of the book, but in story, they were just the Avengers. Which included Iron Man and Vision from the original team, but was otherwise made up of legacy characters like Kamala, the Miles Morales Spider-Man, Jane Foster as Thor, the young Sam Alexander as Nova, and Sam Wilson in his Captain America costume. Iron Man became a second mentor to the young heroine, which led to a splitting of loyalties when Iron Man and Kamala's original mentor, Captain Marvel, ended up leading the opposing sides in Civil War II, which focused on another Inhuman character named Ulysses, who had precognitive powers. In the aftermath of this event, Kamala, Nova, and the young Spider-Man decided to leave the Avengers and formed their own team, focused on their generation and also looking to find more peaceful ways to resolve conflicts whenever possible. This team was called the Champions, and also included Vision, the android daughter of Vision, a young Cyclops, due to time travel shenanigans, and Brawn, aka Amadeus Cho, mentioned in our Hulk Replacements episode, number 44. Both Nova and Miles have been shown to be attracted to Kamala in this title at one point or another. Often the same points. But so far, Kamala remains single and mostly unaware of their feelings. In addition to the Avengers and the Champions, Kamala has also worked with the Agents of Atlas, a team consisting entirely of members of Asian descent, and usually working in Asia, but with teleporting tech that allows them to be anywhere they're needed. Kamala continues to keep her identity secret from her family, although more and more of her friends are learning her secret. Her double life has gotten more complicated recently with the currently ongoing Outlawed story. In an echo of the original Civil War, the Coles Academy, Kamala's school, was destroyed in a battle between some of the Champions and a dragon, during which Kamala herself was knocked into a coma, still in her civilian attire. In the aftermath of this event, a new law was created, the Underage Superhuman Welfare Act, colloquially known as Kamala's Law, requiring all superpowered beings under the age of 21 to work with an adult mentor or be arrested. Upon finally awakening, Kamala was horrified to learn that this was all happening in her name, and sent out an online message as Ms. Marvel, telling the world that the Champions would continue to fight their best fight in defiance of the law. However, she did not consult her teammates before doing so, and this has led to friction between the members of the team, made even worse by Cradle, the government agency created to enforce Kamala's law, apprehending some members of the team after ambushing them at a team meeting, heavily implying that someone on the team reported them. Having been taken to a re-education camp, some of the Champions now support the new law, while Miles and Kamala continue to try to stay out of Cradle's grip. This story originally started in March of 2020, but was put on hold when Marvel severely cut back the number of books being printed during the pandemic. The story is slowly coming out again now, so we'll see in a few months how this ends up and what Kamala's new status quo is. Ms. Marvel is not the only new character Marvel Comics has created in the past 10 to 15 years, but other than Miles Morales, the younger Spider-Man, Kamala is arguably the most popular of these rookies. Her story is very similar to the original Spider-Man in some ways, as we follow a teenager balancing school and family life with the responsibilities involved in being a superhero. But she's also unique from that character in a number of ways. First off, she's self-motivated. Rather than a big tragedy like Uncle Ben's death, or similar events for many other heroes, Kamala just wants to help people because it's the right thing to do. Then there's the representation factor. While Kamala isn't the first Muslim American hero or heroine in the Marvel Universe, or even comics in general, she is the first such character from Marvel to star in her own title. A lot of young girls see themselves in her, tapping into a whole new audience, which is why many of the trade paperbacks collecting her adventures have reached the top 5 of New York Times best-selling graphic novels list upon release. In addition to sales success, the books have also gotten critical acclaim, being nominated for Harveys, Eisners, and winning an American Book Award as well as the Hugo for Best Graphic Story. And now, with Kamala set to appear both in her own TV series this year on Disney+, and then again next year in Captain Marvel 2, her star continues to rise. I hope this look at the character has gotten you as excited as I am for her adaptation to the screen, as well as her continued adventures in the comics. If this episode has inspired any questions from you, I would love to hear them. Please send those in, or any comments on the show in general, via email to welcome2geektown, all spelled out, at gmail.com. Or you can go to welcome2, the number 2 in this case, geektown.com, and click Submit a Question if you prefer to remain anonymous. Other contact options include facebook.com/welcome-to-geektown, or Twitter @GeektownPodcast. Also, if you'd like to support the show directly, come join the Patreon at patreon.com/welcome-to-geektown. For just $1 per month to get access to full scripts of the shows, outtakes, and a monthly shoutout. You can also help the show grow by subscribing and giving a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts to join the Geektown City Council, which helps other people find the show so we can all tell them, welcome to Geektown, population, us. Welcome to Geektown is written, narrated, edited, and produced by me, Kurt Onstad. Theme music is by Aaron Levitz, logo art by Archie Santana. All other sound clips are the copyrighted material of their respective owners, and no infringement is intended, falling under fair use.